we'll have like different food. Yeah, really good. But yeah, we'll be sending out another feedback form. So again, if you have comments about food, lectures, stuff, all that stuff, check that out. Also, make sure you're up to date on the Piazza, as we'll be posting announcements and stuff, as always, on there. All right, workshop 0, let's do it. So for this, we need you guys to have your laptops. Hopefully everyone has that. That's like the #1 prerequisite of this class. And so we're going to be taking the Catbook profile that we developed in workshop -1, because we're really good at counting. The workshop that we did yesterday didn't have that number, but this is apparently the 0th workshop. And of course, we have 0 the next things. But anyways, so this is workshop 0. We're going to add some JavaScript to what we developed yesterday. And so that means you guys need to get some starter code. And now that you all know how to use GitHub and Git, you can go to this link, go to 614.io/workshop0, and you will get the Git code. So clone the repository somewhere. Probably, hopefully you're now keeping all your 614 code in one place. Go ahead and clone it there. And yeah, we'll get started as soon as people do that. Just give me like a kind of raise your hands-ish when you're done. What it should look like. Remember, you can clone it by taking this link and doing git clone, and then in your command line, you can do git clone and that link. You know, good. Okay. What was that? Oh yeah, it's go to 614.io/workshop0. Just keep heading at it if you're not there yet, but I'll just kind of talk with you guys while you're doing that. When you're there, you'll see some changes. Obviously, we still have our profile.html, and if we open up workshop 0 and go to the JavaScript, the profile, it should kind of look like our nice bootstrapified page from the other day. I know that, by the way, the Bootstrap lecture yesterday evening or afternoon was a little bit rushed, so we'll be like kind of covering some Bootstrap stuff while we go through this, and at the end of lecture, I'll also like kind of do some review stuff as well as take some questions on Bootstrap if anyone's confused about that. But yeah, this is what the profile should look like once you get to it. Does everyone have the code? Raise your hand if you have the code. Okay. If you're having issues getting the code, again, yell help or like wave down one of the staff members. Don't be shy. I assume one person has yell help, but I guess you guys are all good. Okay. So yeah, you have the profile.html, which is bootstrapified. You won't actually be looking at this that much. I'll explain a little bit of that later. And then we have, of course, our style sheet, style.css, which is under the subfolder CSS. And again, we won't be touching that much because the main thing we'll be touching is, of course, our profile.js, our new JavaScript file that we'll be adding things to. So, again, kind of just get a quick raise of hands of everyone who has the Git repository on the computer. Just want to make sure most people have it. Yeah, it seems like most people have gotten it. If you haven't gotten it, again.
Just a quick announcement. By the way, if you guys yesterday downloaded the zip for this, you want to make sure you clone this day. So having yesterday's like zip file isn't going to, because we're going to be using some Git commands today. So make sure if you have a zip file, delete it and clone it again, because you'll need a clone version.
Yeah. Do not download zip. Just clone the file and using Git commands. We need to do that. Okay. Again, one more raise of hands. Sorry about this. Just making sure that everyone has it. Go, 3, 2, 1. Raise your hand if you have the Git repository. Wow, there's so many people who are not raising their hands, but I think they already have it. All right. So, okay, I believe, again, yell at some help person if you need it. So, yeah, so here we have the, just edited something. We have the profile.html. I actually would close that. I should keep that open. So I want you guys to open up profile.html, profile.js, and I want you to have the web page open, kind of like the same structure we had. So we don't need to really look at the CSS anymore. And so what we're going to do is, let's go back to the slides. We're going to start trying to do some JavaScript, okay? And so first off, the JavaScript file that we made isn't actually linked yet. What's up? Open up in a terminal where? Like in Sublime? Okay, he's gonna help. Alright, anyone else have questions or need help? She needs help, I think. She needs help, or do you have a question? Question or help? Help. People help over here. Come on, stop being lazy. Yo, you got TAs. Alright. Anyone else need help? Alright. While these guys are helping out, we have a JavaScript file now in our folder, and that means that we want to make that actually do something to our HTML. But before we do that, we need to actually link it to the HTML. Is everyone okay? I hear a lot of chatter, but okay, it's okay. So at the bottom, we're going to do this together. At the bottom of profile.html, you're going to add this following code, the script source code, okay? So let's go to profile.html, and right at the bottom here, right outside of the body tag, but before the end of the HTML tag, we're going to do script source equals js/profile.js. Okay, so we got that going. Okay. And so we kind of want to check that this script is actually correctly linked, if we don't make a typo or something. So to make that check is really easy. We just make it actually do something in our JavaScript.
By all means, I love it.
So as we saw earlier during lecture, there was this command called alert. Basically, just makes a pop-up show up on Facebook page, on a web page, and so we can just write alert, hello world. Okay, and that should basically, how this will work is once the page is loaded, it'll start loading this script, and the script will run, and it'll go through each line and run each line, and there's only one line right now, so it should alert hello world. So if we did this correctly, we can go to our profile page and refresh, okay? At the very beginning of loading, it says hello world. Look at that, amazing. Did everyone get that? What's up? Yes, SRC, sorry. What? Yeah, so there are many different kinds of attributes, but this attribute is specifically for the source. So that's why you need to have it be source equals JS / again, the source itself can be wherever your file is, but the attribute name has to be source. Anyone else have questions? Did everyone get, oh, what's up? Yeah, absolutely. So what we did really quick, for those of you who were just getting things ready, we added this tag at the bottom of our HTML. Script source is the link to the source, which is under this folder, so it's js/profile.js. So we have here. And then we want to make sure that the script is correctly linked. So in profile.js, we just added something to check that it's working. We added alert hello world. And then when we now load our page gives us an alert that says hello world, which means that the JavaScript is correctly linked. Now I gotta raise the hands who got that to work. Okay, looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we have that, we basically know that our JavaScript is correctly linked, so we can now start doing things in our JavaScript. So we're gonna do this one again. We'll start off together. So kind of just type with me. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the element with the ID profile description. We actually did this in the terminal during the previous lecture, but now we're going to do it in JavaScript in a file. We're going to get the element with profile description, and we're going to console log its inner text, okay? So I'm going to do this together. If you think you know how to do it, then go for it and try writing it out, but I'll just keep talking and explain what I'm doing. So you guys can open up profile.js, you can delete whatever's in there because we don't need that right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to, remember, get get element by ID. So first off, we can do that, but we also want to store that somewhere. So we're going to make const, and we can call it profile description, okay? And we're going to do document.get element by ID. Careful with like the camel case, it's sometimes a little weird, and I believe it's called profile description. Okay, so we've gotten the element, and now what we want to do is we want to console log its inner text. So we'll just do console.log, and then inner profile description dot inner text. By the way, if you're new to like using code editors or text editors, anyways, you can see that I did some auto completion. So you can, if you start writing something, it gives some kind of default option below. And by the time I do profile D, it's like the highlighted option. I just click enter and it fills it in. So you can do some things like that. Cool. So now if we do that and we go to our web page, refresh it, well at first it looks like nothing happened, right? Well that's because it logged something to the console, but where is this console? We haven't looked at the console. So as always, we have to inspect, open up the console. When you look at that, in the console there's this text. It is in fact the profile description. I am an avid cataloger, yada yada yada. And you can see if I refresh, it loads it every time you refresh, which means it's running every single time you do it. So yeah, did everyone follow along? Everyone understand that? And you have questions on just that part? So in the beginning, I don't want to lose anyone here. Thoughts? Questions? No? Alright, so, oh yeah, what's up? Oh, help, someone help. Anyway, here. Okay, anyone have questions or need help? Help there? Okay. Help over here. Question?
Yeah, question. What if there's a syntax error in the JavaScript? What would happen?
So yeah, I can show that really quick. So let's say I did something silly, like I did profile description, something like that, and ran it. It'll be like, it'll just throw the error here. It's like profile description is not just defined, right? Or what other errors can there be? Like let's say I did some ID that doesn't exist, like this, okay, and tried to find that ID. It'd be like, so this is a little more complicated, right? It's not as easy to understand, but it says cannot read inner text, property inner text of null. And that means that this is null, and it's trying to find the inner text of it. And if this is null, then you start thinking, okay, how did this become null? And you're like, okay, it must be being set to null here, remember? Because things just don't become null automatically. Something must set it to null. So it's set to null here, which means that this is returning null, which means that it didn't find something with that ID. Okay? That's kind of how you go about debugging something like this. Cool. Anyone else have questions? Great question. Anyone else? Cool. All right. So, okay. What we're gonna do next is now that we've done that together and we've figured that out, it's time for you guys to try. This is the answer, which I just typed up right there. But yeah, so now it's your turn. Try and get the ID element with the ID profile name. It's already in there for you, and set its inner text to be your name. Remember, right now it says, I believe it actually says some user right now, and we want that not to be some user. We want it to be you. So go ahead and give that a try. Set its inner text to be your name. Take some time to do that now. And of course, raise your hand if you need help. Do you need help or have a question? Help. Anyone else need help?
Hey, give me a. No, I want you to do it in the JavaScript. So if you guys have figured that out, give me a quick thumbs up if anyone is done with that. Solid. Some of you guys are getting there. Some of you guys are working on it. Keep going. You guys figured somewhat. It kind of works. All right. Help. If you guys figured it out, feel free to start using JavaScript. See what else you can do. Like find an ID, maybe change the other things on the page. Try changing maybe the color of things. Try changing the CSS. These are all things that you can do using JavaScript. Again, another time, thumbs up if you have mostly got it. You're nearly there. Help? Yeah, good question. So yeah, you see I'm kind of swapping back and forth with inner text and inner HTML. So inner text is for any element, you really want to only use it for things like divs or paragraphs or headers, because what inner text will do is it will set whatever's in between the starting tag and the ending tag to the text that you provide. So that'll be I don't know, if you have a header and you're saying this is my header, you can set its inner text to that. But with inner HTML, you can use that to actually just hard code HTML into it. So what you can do is, let's say you have a div, and you set the inner HTML to be open bracket, h1, close bracket, my name, close the tag, and that will actually output as the tag in HTML as it should, whereas if you set it to the inner text, it'll just output that text. Yeah, it'll output text instead of showing you as an HTML structure. Anyone else? What was that? Oh yeah, so the inner HTML, basically, you can write text that is HTML code. And you can just put the HTML code into an element. So you could put an H1 tag that you typed out into an element using JavaScript. Whereas if you set that using inner text, it would just print out, you would see literally H1 on your web page. And you can't see it. So there's two different kind of things. Alright, one last time, thumbs up if you're pretty good, get it, even if you did totally figure it out, kind of understand what's going on, thumbs up. Okay, it's somewhat, some people sound, does anyone want to let me know, what are you guys running into? What are some general issues or problems that you guys are having trouble with? Alright, no problems. Got 99 problems. Alright, well, I'm going to just kind of slowly move on and just show my solution so that some people start to understand. It's just basically exactly what we just did. We get element by ID, this time with the ID profile name. You'd remember, I just gave you the ID here, but let's say you in the future want to start using other IDs, you just look through the HTML, find the ID. If there is an ID, it's your HTML. You can add IDs to any element you want. Let's say you get it. And then I set the inner text profile name inner text to Aaron Sipsford, so that's clearly fine. But yeah, that's how that works. All right. Anyone have any final questions or thoughts, issues? Because if not, I'm going to get everyone back on the same page in a second. Okay, so what we're going to do is exercise 2, okay? So we're going to now create a user JSON object. So remember we talked about objects. JSON, by the way, just means JavaScript object notation. It's, I think, right? Unless I'm wrong. So basically it's a JavaScript object, as we just described. And we're going to be creating a user object.
And the reason for this is we kind of, this motivation behind this kind of. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking these parameters from the user object, for example, name and the last post I made, to populate the profile page. Because at the end of the day, on Facebook, I have a profile page, but so do you, and so does everyone, and like the thousands of other people in this world that are on Facebook. And so each person has their own user object that helps them populate. And what that means is normally we'd like get that user, we'd get the user's data from some servers, from some database or something like that. But that's not even for today. So for today, we'll just kind of mock that up. We're just going to create our own user object. This will be local here for now. And we'll try to populate our database based on that. Okay? So, yes. So what we now want to do is, this is why I really need you guys to be on Git. So go ahead and open it up, the command line that you're using Git on. And I want you to make sure that you're in the folder that your Git repository is. So if all you did was type git clone and then like the folder, then your command line is probably not actually in that folder yet. It just made that folder in your current folder. So what you have to do is, if you're on Git Bash or on a Unix machine, you can do cd into the folder. On Windows, I think it's actually also
CD on Windows.
It's CD. Okay, yeah, you can just do cd and cd into, I believe it's called. This is the wrong one. CD. So yeah, so for example, here, I'll zoom in on this. You can see that in this, I cloned the workshop 0 here. So I would do cd catbook workshop 0. Okay. So and now when you're in a Git repository, what's nice on Git Bash is that it actually shows you what branch you're on. So it's nice. It says like masters right here, right? So what I can do is I can say git status, okay? And it says that I like changed a lot of things, right? Because we just added a bunch of things to our repository. What we're all going to do now is, if everyone's gotten here, give me just a quick thumbs up that you've gotten here and checked git status and has some things in red. All right, what you want to do is we're going to stash this. So git stash is a command that basically says get rid of all the changes, because I don't want these changes anymore. Okay, so just type git stash. Okay. And once you do that, it's basically say some weird stuff that basically means that your changes are undone. And the reason we do that is you're next going to type out git checkout x2, ex2. Okay? Okay. So once you, basically 2 commands are running, git stash and then git checkout ex2. Okay? And it should say something like switch to a new branch ex2. Let me know when you get that. Give a thumbs up when you're on the new branch. Okay? All right.
Raise your hand if you have not gotten to the new branch. I need help. We should make sure everyone's on this new branch before we continue.
Really
so raise your hands high.
If you're not on the new branch.
If you tried and you need help. First try your phone.
But yeah, it's just 2 commands.
Yeah, don't use the zip file. Delete everything and check it with yeah, but then we told you to not do it anymore because now delete the folder, close it with key, delete all the things again, then you can check out the program.
Does the JavaScript or CSS run through? So if like your CSS is telling the HTML to be something to black, and then the JS changes it to red, will the web, like the website that you see show the JS?
Yeah. Okay. While people are still figuring out, a really good question. If you tell something using JavaScript to change, like let's say the CSS or something in your HTML document, what's going to happen? What is it going to pick? Is it going to do the CSS that you have in your CSS document, or is it going to do the CSS that your JavaScript told it to do? And most usually it is going to be the JavaScript syntax, but that's like the ultimate priority. You're kind of saying, okay, here's an element, tell CSS to be this. And if you remember, I showed a way where you could, inside an HTML tag, add style equals like an inline CSS way. I told you never to do that. So that's technically what the JavaScript is doing. And when you put a style on an element that right inside that element, that's like the highest priority of CSS. So it's going to take that styling over anything else. Okay? So yeah, basically the answer, short answer is yeah, it will over.
So it renders the new CSS based on JavaScript before it displays the web page.
So in theory, what's actually happening is your web page is loading, and it loads, and like let's say your element is red, and it's red, and instantaneously your JavaScript runs, and since computers are really fast, it immediately changes to blue. So fast that you can't see it. And in fact, you can see this if I refresh. Sorry, 1 second. So I checked out this new branch. Well, I got rid of something, but if you noticed, when we were working on this, it changed this immediately from some user, which is what's in the HTML, to your name. And you don't even see some user. That's how fast it is.
But it runs after the web.
It runs after, which is why we put it at the bottom of the script. Anyone else have questions or do you need help? Help? Up there? All in the back? Anyone have questions or need help? Okay. Again, another quick raise of hands. Have you got into the new branch? Alright, I think that's a good number. You haven't figured that out just quite yet. Definitely make sure you figure this out at some point, but I'm going to start moving on because I don't want to spend too long. So just for context, what we just did is we did this thing called git checkout. What it does is it checks out a branch, okay? Now I don't want to explain this too much, but basically we have multiple versions of the repository at the same time. So before this lecture, you actually saw in the workshop we did yesterday, we had multiple versions of the file, but I just named it as profile 1, profile 2, profile 3, profile 4, etc. But that's because we weren't using Git. With Git, we have the power now to just kind of have multiple versions of the same file at the same time really easily. So that's what branches does. Now, so if you check out this branch, you can see that it automatically changed some things. Okay, so this kind of take us to the beginning of exercise 2. So let's go to. So if you look at the profile.js, now it should have some base code that I just put in there. So let's go there, check it out. So remember we were talking about having a user object. I basically created that already for you. You have a constant user object with name and last post. So go ahead right now and replace that with your name and whatever you want your last post or your last status to be. Okay. So now that we have that, by the way, you notice that I defined it as a constant. Because of course, why would this user be changing? After you have the user, you don't want to ever be changing it ever again. So this is just being used, you define it, and then you populate a web page based on it. And then below that, we have a function that basically says render user data and has nothing in it. And then we just call that function on user. Okay? Note that the parameter of the function is a user, because you can technically run this function on any user. And I'm currently running it on the user that I have, which is me. Okay? So, now that we have that, okay. Again, one last, is anyone still having trouble? Make sure you get help. I think most people are all set. So yeah, so you're gonna fill in the render user data, okay, function. So basically, it should update the name and the latest post based on your user data. So I'm going to make you do it twice because that makes you better at it. I know you just wrote the code to update the username. Do that again and also find the ID for the last post. I'm going to make you dig for it this time. Go look into the HTML, find the ID for where the last post is, and update that and write that code inside the function. So right in this area under render user data. So go ahead and do that right now, and hopefully you will start seeing things happen on the page. Right, so I already just filled in the profile name update, just like we just did again. So if you forgot about how that works, it's right here. What you want to do is also make this text, which was today was a great day, all that. Figure out what ID it has, and basically do the same thing by setting the that element's inner text to the last post. One quick thing to note is that I used auser.name. Make sure you do that because you want to make this based on the function. You can render any user's data. So if your friend passed you their JSON, you can render their profile page too. But yeah, so make sure you do like this kind of accessing of the user. One quick thing also is that you can also write this as this. If you remember from the first lecture, you can access things based on that and it'll do the exact same thing. I prefer. Okay. So go ahead and make sure you get the last post in. I can start coding that up here myself. If you don't figure it out, feel free to look along. Question or help?
Single or double quotes?
Either technically works in JavaScript, actually. So you can use single, you can use double. Slava, actually, is there a significant difference between using single and double quotes in JavaScript? No? I don't believe so. Yeah, so feel free to try to be consistent, but either works. So I'm ready to look for the ID of the place where the status is. I just found it, so I'm going to put it in.